Hey, how's it going? So I am recording this video because I know that we will not be meeting Monday as we usually do. Because of President's Day, the campus will actually be closed. So I'm recording this just to make sure that you know what you need to know so that you can complete the module for this week. Hope you're cool, hope you're in good spirits, and doing your thing. So here I have the calendar. Here's the module for this week. First little reminder is that the first stamp, the Success Center deadline, they've set it for the 21st, which if I'm not mistaken, I believe that's like Friday, right? Monday 17, Tuesday 18, Wednesday 19. Yeah, Friday. So make sure that you get that one done, because as you can see, I'm going to actually be collecting it from you next Monday, so do bring that in ready. Okay, cool, so that's that. Next thing is that the current event 2 is due tomorrow, Monday. Say tomorrow because today's Sunday that I'm recording this, and it's due by 5:30, so be cognizant of that. Next thing, I'm going to explain what this is, Techinus Brainstorm. And this one I actually set the deadline for 11:59 p.m. This one here was a little typo on my end, so but the trick is really to just look at the deadlines on Canvas, because you'll always know when everything's due and the time, and as long as you stay up to date on that, then you're cool. All right, so let's actually go into our Canvas page here. I believe it's this one here. Oh no. That's just the message I was going to leave. Okay, so here we go. So first of all, we have been looking at communities. We've had this almost anthropological lens, and because we've been considering learning communities and through the concept of communities of practice, and then how to navigate within those communities through discourse. And the way we're going to segue into the new thematic unit, which, if you'll recall, the larger overarching theme of our course is the human experience. So, with that being said, okay, so we looked at communities in us, and the way we're going to segue into technology in us is, I'd like to make mention of a media theorist, a Canadian media theorist who, long ago in the 60s, he came up with a concept known as the global village. His name was Marshall McLuhan, and what was really cool is that he saw how the trends of telecommunications and media were really functioning as a way to create this global village. This I mean, how big of a community? I mean, that's as big as it gets, right? The whole world. So he was looking at how things like the radio, and so mass media like the radio and television and the newspapers were able to create this sense of making public things that back then that would have been private. Like, for example, a prince marries, on the other side of the world, and here in the States we hear about it. But you guys should check it out. It's called The Global Village, and that's how we segue into this new thematic unit. Because he was looking at how through mass media, and man, this is before the internet, he was looking at how through mass media there's this effect of making public and bringing others in from across the globe and into our own personal space and lives, and that's how we actually segue into this thematic unit entitled Technology in Us, because as citizens of the 21st century, we can't ignore the ubiquitous presence of tech all around us. Okay, so that's our thematic unit that we officially enter into. So for this module, you'll see that the first thing you see is the current event 2 link, which is due tomorrow, Monday, by 5:30 p.m. You guys did awesome with the first one. And actually, now that you know how to do the works cited, make sure you get that done. And it's MLA, at least 2 double-spaced pages. Okay. So our reading comes from Mr. Ray Bradbury. Yes. I don't know how many of you read Fahrenheit 451 or The Martian Chronicles. Oh, Ray Bradbury's a great one. So if you'll take a look at this story was written in 1950, and he was almost prescient in that he was able to know the direction that our society was taking of becoming very, very tech dependent and tech heavy. So it's a rad story. So read this story, and there's this little quiz here that you take after him. Here's the discussion questions. Oh, it's a little slow here. And next task. There's next. All right. My internet's a little bit slow, but let's just wait. Oh man, it is slow. Okay, so we have the prompt for the second essay, which let's go ahead and download that so we can look at it together. Oh man, there it is. There's the preview at least. Let me go ahead and minimize this one. There it is, behind on Word. Oh, that's not it. No, here it is, TechNS. So the name of the prompt, it's the same as our thematic unit, Technology in Us. So take a look at this prompt. I'm not going to read it word for word, but the main thing is that you're considering what the role of technology is in our current society. So when we say tech, that includes everything from the internet, the radio, drones, robots, Amazon Go, video games, virtual reality, smartphones, so many things that so much tech that surrounds us, and you're considering what its role, what its function, what its job is within our society. So it's kind of one of those things where you work backwards, and that's what the brainstorm is going to help to determine your stand. So one of those things where you see it as having more benefits or more harms, or so what's your stance? Do you see it as ultimately being more helpful? And then after saying that, choose an area where you see it as being the most helpful. All right. So here's some guiding questions. You don't have to answer each and every one, but just to help guide your thinking. My neighbors are being loud. Just close the window. All right. So yeah, just consider these things. How has tech helped shape our current society? What does its presence look like? How do you personally use it? What are some examples of the tech that you use? Why do you use it? So these are just some guiding questions. But here's the main thing you're answering. What's the function, job? What's the function / job in our society? What is its purpose? So maybe, I might say something like this. Being a citizen of the 21st century, technology surrounds my experience on the daily. And okay, fine. I acknowledge that it's around me. Then I might say the ultimate function of technology in our society is to make our lives easier by streamlining our day-to-day processes. Okay, cool. So I have my ID, which is tech in our society. I have my claim, which is that it's ultimately helpful, and it's helpful because it streamlines our day-to-day processes. Here's my direction. So here's some examples. So I might say one of the more salient places where technology proves to be the most beneficial is in the realm of surgery and healthcare. This is because, thanks to technology, maybe machines are able to achieve a higher degree of accuracy during surgical procedures. thus allowing healthcare to become more efficient, something like that. See how I've identified my stance as tech being beneficial, and then after that, it's I'm more interested in the place of surgery and healthcare. Um, and like, because I'm thinking about like LASIK surgery. I'm thinking about lasers and machines that help us during surgery. And I think that's such a rad thing. Not to mention prosthetics. This is so interesting. So I mean, if I was a student and I was writing this, I might maybe focus on how it helps us medically. And another neat thing, there are a lot of devices that help people with blindness or people who have deafness. So yeah, so those are some ideas. And we'll take a look at what the brainstorm is in a moment. So yeah, this one's at least 3 pages, double spaced, just like we've been doing. The slip and MLA 5, essays 100. The workshop. So check this out. 24th, guys, is exactly next Monday already. So obviously not tomorrow because we have the President's Day and the campus is closed, but next Monday, 24th, you're going to bring in 3 copies of your draft to class. That's going to be at least 2 pages. Remember, drafts are messy. They're grimy. Just try your best. The final draft is due March 8 by 11:59 p.m. I want to point something out. So even though this paper doesn't compulsorily have a research aspect where I'm not asking that you have to bring in outside sources, but certainly bringing in sources would help. Because like me, let's say I was writing about how tech helps us with healthcare and it helps us in surgery, then of course I'd have to bring in information about like how lasers are used or like some examples of where machines help surgeons and so maybe if that was my focus, because the whole point, guys, if you remember from the urban reading, is to narrow your focus upon a topic as much as possible. So narrow as much as possible. There was a very, very zen quote from Irvin, and it said, "A well-tended garden is better than a large one full of weeds," and that signifies that rather than tackling like such a massive thing, scale it down to something of manageable proportions. Okay, so that's this. So take a look at this prompt. If you have questions, shoot me an email. And yeah, but just try your best at the at writing the draft. 2 pages at least. Make sure you have a concrete working thesis where you determine if ultimately tech is more beneficial or is it more harmful, and then okay, if you're going to say it's harmful, maybe you're going to say that we're utterly dependent upon it to the point that we can't function. And you might give an example, maybe like video game addiction, which I don't know if you knew, but the World Health Organization actually determined it as a real thing. Look it up, WHO, video game addiction. So anyway, okay, so that's that. Let's return to our module for this week. We go to next. Okay, so here's the brainstorm that I was referencing. Okay, so just click it here. Awesome. All right, so the direction, here, let me make this bigger. Well, you can't see me anymore, but that's all right. So the directions are here at the bottom. You can look at it. But essentially, I want you to create a T-chart. On one side is benefits, and on the other side is harms. And think of some examples of how tech can be beneficial within our society. On this side, like, here's some examples I thought of. I thought of Google Maps, and heck, for me, it's all the like schedule planner apps like iCalendar and things like that. I was going to stay with the example of how lasers and machines help us during surgery and overall healthcare. Like, hey guys, the pacemaker, that's a huge thing. Or even the Apple Watch, it lets you know if your blood pressure is too high or something or anything like that. Harms. I was thinking about like texting and driving and or walking when people. I've seen students cross a crosswalk, not even watching for cars, but just glued to their phones. It's really dangerous. So what I want you to do ultimately is I want you to create a T-chart. One side is benefits, the other side is harms, and they can be completely unrelated ideas. Just ask yourself, what are some benefits that I see from tech, insofar as it contribution to society? So you can be like Google Maps. You can be like Apple Watch regulates blood pressure. You can be like I don't know. Isn't there like an app that helps to measure like how much, like what your nutrition is like? So I don't know. So think of examples for benefits. Think of examples for harms, and then ultimately consider if at the end of the day tech is more beneficial or is it more harmful. After you do that, think of, okay, where in society do you see this most salient? So it's like a palpable example, if you will. So after you come up with this little T-chart, benefits and harms, you have to come up with. I'm asking you to come up with a working thesis. Okay, here's something I was thinking about. Technology has ubiquitous presence in our modern day and age. Although it's an undeniably helpful tool, it can also bring potential pitfalls if its users are not careful. Some examples of these pitfalls include addiction and overall dependence. So what I might add after this, I might say something like, despite these pitfalls, though the benefits most certainly outweigh the harms. And then I would say my example, this is predominantly exemplified through the world of healthcare and surgery, something like that. So there, with my example there, I've narrowed down like just where I will be focusing on in terms of technology's contribution and place within our society. So, in terms of the actual execution, you can just erase this and type it in. Sometimes it acts a little bit funny. Or you can just get a regular paper, and just fold it, hot dog style, which is vertically, or hamburger style, which is horizontally, however you want, and just rewrite it with pen. But you need to have both things. You need to have both your list of benefits and harms, and you need to have a working thesis if you want the full points. Once you do that, guys, you can just scan the page, or you can take a picture of the page in order to submit it into the link. So type it out, write it freehand. It's all good. I just want you to get your wheels. I want you to get your cogs spinning in your mind, and begin taking strides towards this essay and this upcoming draft, which will be next Monday, which will be the 24th. Okay, so let's return to our module here. So here's the link where you can upload. You can upload your assignment here, your brainstorm. Either if you type it or if you write it freehand, it's all good. That's it for this week. So essentially, it's just the current event. It's reading the VELD, taking the quiz, doing the discussion for it, and then this brainstorm here. And remember, bring 3 copies of your Tech and Us draft, at least 2 pages, next Monday, the 24th. And we'll do the peer review workshop just like our first one. All right, guys. So if you have questions, please give me a shout out. Shout out your questions. I mean that virtually. Like, send me an email. 'Cause I can't hear your shouts. All right. Other than that, I wish you guys an awesome week, an awesome President's Day, and enjoy the sun, actually, because the sun's coming back. All right, guys. See you on the 24th, actually.